And according to Jesus, it starts in marriage with hardness of heart. And what happens in marriage when somebody gets hard-hearted, they literally are hard-hearted toward the Lord and toward their spouse. And we've all had a hard heart at some point. Some of us, it's been a very long season, and if you're in it right now, you need to ask God to sort of take out that hard heart and give you a soft heart. But nonetheless, when people get a hardness of heart, they will do horrible, terrible, cruel, even traumatic things to their spouse to force them to do something that would give them grounds for divorce or just to leave. And so when it comes to divorce, I think it was the Westminster Confession of Faith, if memory serves me correct, says that when it comes to divorce, we need to be careful about saying these are qualifiers and these are not, because what happens is if your heart is hard, you're going to find a way to get your circumstances to match the qualifications. And so I saw this early on as a pastor. One of the first divorce cases that I was in on at a staff meeting at a church, there was a couple that they were Christians, and she met with a pastor and asked, what are the grounds for divorce? And the pastor said, well, you can't get divorced unless there's adultery. And so what she did, she spent the next few years trying to get her husband to commit adultery. And she hired a friend of hers to be the housekeeper. She would leave. She encouraged the housekeeper to flirt with her husband. She knew that her friend liked her husband, and she said she was fine with it. And so for years, she's got her friend coming over to clean the house and flirt with her husband, and she intentionally goes to the grocery store. Well, eventually, the husband does what he shouldn't do, and he crosses a line with the woman, and then the woman goes and tells the wife, it finally happened, we connected, we hooked up. So then the woman walks into the church and tells the pastor, I can get a divorce now, he committed adultery. It's like, well, this is a real sick situation here. And the woman had a boyfriend, but she hadn't slept with him yet. So she hadn't committed adultery, but she committed adultery in her heart. So the whole thing was just a disaster. And I remember sitting in that counseling session as a young pastor going, man, when people want to sin, they get really creative. And if you just give them sort of a paint-by-numbers kit of what's acceptable and unacceptable, they'll oftentimes find a way to get their circumstances to fit the paint-by-numbers kit. And so, and that is what, again, Jesus is talking about with hardness of heart. I mean, I know married